If you're married with kids and, a high pressure job, you can't have a single-minded focus. You have to have a balanced set of goals, like these aligned goals, 4 areas: relationships, self, health, and wealth. You have to be very clear in what those goals are in each of those areas.
Today's guest is Jim Harshaw Jr., an All-American wrestler and high-performance coach who helps athletic-minded men maximize their full potential at work, with their families, and in their biggest life goals.
I had coaches who kicked me into rear end if I needed a kick, or they helped me course correct. They help me see my blind spot. You have to have these people who are, we're on the inside of the jar trying to read the label. We need somebody on the outside of the jar who can help us see our blind spots, call us out when we need called it out. That was in place when you're an athlete. It's not in place in the real world by default.
Do you ever feel sluggish or mentally foggy? If so, your body might be craving essential minerals that are lacking from our modern food supply. Well, I want to tell you about an amazing mineral supplement that I've been using for the past year. It's called Beam Minerals. Beam Minerals offers a superior mineral supplement packed with fulvic and humic acids, which are 2 powerful plant-based compounds that do far more than just replenish your minerals. Studies show that fulvic and humic acids enhance nutrient absorption, boost cellular detox, and support energy production. And unlike other supplements, Beam Minerals delivers bioavailable ionic minerals in liquid format, ensuring your body gets exactly what it needs. I've been using Beam Minerals every day as my go-to mineral supplement. I pour 1 ounce of their liquid minerals into my morning water, and I smile because I know I'm giving my body the research-backed minerals to reduce inflammation and improve my overall well-being. Upgrade your health today with Beam Minerals. Visit beamminerals.com/fitfamily to learn more. You can use code FITFAMILY at checkout for a special discount.
All right, Jim, welcome officially to the Fit Father Project podcast, my friend. We are all so happy to have you here.
Anthony, so great to be here.
This is going to be a fun one. Today, we're going to go through the landscape of performance psychology, but we're going to be approaching it through the lens of athletics, in the sense of what many of us learned when we were growing up was we played in sports, and some of us found performance, and there's disciplines that make great athletes. And I think many of us feel like there's a certain point in our lives where we lose our way. We lose our discipline. We're not creating the kind of results that we used to do in athletics or in life. Our families are not where we want them to be. Our businesses are not where we want them to be. And you're a really unique guy in that you help people bring this athletic-minded aspect for men and help them maximize their potential in all these areas of life. And so we're going to get into discussions on looking at failure, qualities of elite performance, how to set goals, how to avoid distraction, find clarity, be a great parent, everything that people are interested in. The right place to start, though, to really connect the dots for us is your story. So you went very high in athletics, but take us to like the moment where you kind of felt like you were rock bottom. And then we'll hear about your journey, and then all these great questions are going to come from there.
Yeah, I was in my mid-30s, and I found myself with a failed business, a struggling marriage, not spending enough time with my kids, the worst physical shape of my life. I had been, having been an All-American athlete, like I was totally out of balance with my identity as an athlete, totally, completely off track there. Broken is probably the best way to describe it. And I remember as I was closing down that business, thinking to myself, there was a point in my life where I was performing at a high level, right? I had absolute clarity. I was able to do hard things. I was able to keep things in balance. I was able to find success. I was able to maximize my potential. And here I was in my mid-30s, and I had, prior experience and success in my life. And how do I take that success in business and in sport that I had prior in my life and apply that to the real world? And would that even work, right? People talk about all these great life lessons you learn in sport. And, here I am out of balance, out of shape, not spending enough time with my wife or my kids, feeling like I'm pulled in a million different directions, didn't have time to work out. And so I reflected back on when I went to the University of Virginia, and as a high school wrestler, my goal was to win a Pennsylvania state championship. And not only did I not win the state championship, I didn't even get on the podium. I didn't even finish in the top 6. And luckily I was still recruited. I was recruited by some great schools, your alma mater, University of Pennsylvania, Cornell and Brown, and, so a few Ivy Leagues, as well as University of Virginia. And University of Virginia I found to be the best fit. got to UVA. Wrestling really opened the door for me academically. I was a good student. I wasn't like UVA good, so wrestling opened the door. But I was a recruited walk-on. I was not a scholarship athlete, and I'm sitting there at UVA as a freshman, thinking, okay, I don't know if I can cut it here academically. I don't know if I can cut it here athletically, because all my teammates were state champions and 3-time state place winners. I was none of those. I was on the top 10 ranked recruiting class in the country. It probably would have been ranked top 5 if I wasn't on it. I was like the blemish on it, and even socially, like I was a blue collar kid, dad was a construction worker. Mom was a secretary, nobody in my family had graduated from college in anywhere in my family. So this was completely new ground for me. And at that point, I had these doubts and this uncertainty of how, if I could keep it all together and find success. Well, fast forward 5 years, I redshirted my freshman year, competed the next 4, and I ended up being a 3-time ACC champion, NCAA Division I All-American. I was invited to live and train at the Olympic Training Center as an Olympic hopeful. I graduated from the number 1 ranked public school in the country with an undergraduate degree and a master's degree. I mean, complete transformation happened there. And then after that, I got into coaching, and I coached collegiately Division I for about a decade. I was the youngest Division I head wrestling coach in the country at one point. Got out of coaching, got into business, started my first business. That was successful. And I sold that, and I raised some angel capital and started my second business. And about 2 years into it, this business had failed. And this is the one where as I'm shutting down this business, thinking to myself, like there was a point in my life where I'd found success, and I was at that broken moment, thinking I went from underperformer to peak performer from average to one of the best in America at what I did athletically, and I kept the social piece in balance, had a great social life, and I also had did great academically. Like, what was it that was in place then that's not in place now? And I realized there were 4 things. And I had an epiphany one night, laying in bed, staring at the ceiling, stressed out, thinking, I've got to provide for my family financially. I've got to get fit and healthy again. I've got to, most importantly, heal my relationship with my wife and spend more time with my kids. And so in order to do that, I realized there are 4 things in place in my life when I had maximized my potential. And I think for the listeners, you'll get this, you'll understand this framework. And so number 1 is, in sport, there's a very clear vision for what success looks like. Like, you were a wrestler in high school, Anthony. It's like standing on top of the podium. Like, that's what success looks like. It's very clear in sports. Out here in the real world, men, especially in their 40s and beyond, like, success can look like a whole lot of different things. I mean, thumb through Instagram for a moment and you'll see it can look like all kinds of different things. But what should it look like for me? Like, what do I want it to look like for me? Having that so number 1 is having a crystal clear vision for what success looks like in your life, like pausing and defining that, not just kind of going, okay, yeah, I have that idea. Next, Jim, like, tell me the next thing. Like, no, you actually have to do the work here. But so step 1 is the vision and the underlying core values. Step 2 is creating goals that align with those values. We call them aligned goals. And a lot of people go straight to maybe fitness, right? I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to run a marathon, or whatever that might be. For every individual is different. Or a lot of people go to money, right? I want to make X amount of dollars per year. And that's great, right? Those are great goals, but you got to really look at the whole person, because when I was wrestling, I'll be honest, I had a single-minded focus. I was single-minded focused on wrestling, and everything else was just secondary. I was able to keep the academics in balance and the social life in balance, but really it was a single-minded focus. But guess what? For the listeners, like, if you're married with kids and a high pressure job, like, you can't have a single-minded focus. You have to have a balanced set of goals. Like, these aligned goals, the way we do it with our clients is 4 areas: relationships, self, health, and wealth. Like, those 4 areas, you have to be very clear on what those goals are at each of those areas. Like, how much money do I want to make? What promotion, what side hustle, what business do I want to start? Whatever it might be, health wise, like, lose weight, get fit, whatever that is specifically, just like you do with your clients, Anthony, get very clear on that. Self goals, this is about personal goals, growth goals, impact or volunteering, philanthropy kind of goals, or fun, things are just fun for you. And then the relationship goals, like, so critical to have those. So that's the second piece. Again, first part, vision and values. Second part, aligned goals. Third piece is what we call the environment of excellence. And that's bringing in people like you into your life. Like when I was competing as a wrestler, I had coaches who kicked me in the rear end if I needed a kick, or they helped me course correct. They helped me see my blind spots like you do for your clients. You have to have these people who are, we're on the inside of the jar trying to read the label. We need somebody on the outside of the jar who can help us see our blind spots, call us out when we need called out. Like that was in place when you're an athlete. It's not in place in the real world by default.
Yeah.
So that's the third part, environment of excellence. And fourth and finally is, that's all well and good. Everybody's heard about having a vision for your life and identifying core values and setting goals and whatnot, and having a coach and the value of that. But the fourth piece is really critical. You have to have a plan to follow through in the long term, because if you don't, you will fall off track. Period. Guaranteed. This is what life does to us, right? You get sick, or you go on vacation, or the economy goes in the tank, or the company downsizes, or whatever. We can name 100 more things that are going to throw you off course in life. You have to have a plan to consistently follow through in the long term. Like, for example, when I was wrestling, if I lost a match on a Friday night and I'm sitting in the corner feeling sorry for myself, coaches comes over and he's like, "Hey, Jim, be in the weight room 8:00 tomorrow morning. Be there. Like it or not, you have to be there." There's a framework. There's an infrastructure in place that allows you to stay on the path, stay on track long term. So that's the critical framework here. That's the core of our coaching. I installed this back into my life, and I tripled my income, healed my relationship with my wife, and got healthy and fit again. And this is it. Like, this is the framework. This is the core of how we help people.
I love it. It feels very clear to me right now. Take us through some scenarios. They could be real from your clients or imagined, about how we start to instill this framework. Like, is there an initial deep dive into mindset work? Are we then we're writing down goals? Are they written, and what time frame? I want to get really specific here, because I think people will enjoy that. And even down to that last component of having environment of success and like having a plan to get back on track. I know it's so fascinating when we're adults, like we have to become like the CEO of our own lives. We don't have like that coach to help like make those decisions. So what does it even look like to create that structure? And maybe even through a health lens, but also speak through a wealth lens or even a relationship lens. Let's get some case studies kind of in place. I think that'd be really cool.
Absolutely. So first, I'm going to give you this. There's an underlying principle that makes all of this work, that makes my coaching work, that makes your coaching work, Anthony. And it is this. So I have a podcast that you've been on before, and it's called Success for the Athletic Minded Man. And over 400 and almost 50 episodes now, I've interviewed all these world-class performers and amazing people. And I often ask them this same question. I say, what is the one habit that you most credit for your success? And, for the Olympic gold medalist, you think it would be some kind of training habit. For the New York Times bestselling author, you think it would be some kind of writing habit, but it's never what you'd expect. It's always some version of hitting the pause button, stepping back, asking the right questions. It might be journaling or working with a coach or a mentor. It might be prayer, it might be meditation, but it's never doing. It's never doing the thing that the person is known for, right? And it's always getting clarity first. And so I've coined the term productive pause. Okay. This is a productive pause that they're doing, right? Whether it's daily, sitting down, writing every day, I write down how I'm going to win the day, or once a year, I do a retreat with my wife and we go away and we kind of look at our year prior and our year ahead, and we set our goals for the year. Like, these are both different versions of a productive pause. And here's the definition. Here's the definition of a productive pause. It's a short period of focused reflection around specific questions that leads to clarity of action and peace of mind. Clarity of action, peace of mind. Like, that's what we all want, right? And it doesn't happen. Now, for the listener, I'm speaking directly to you. This doesn't happen by waking up today and doing the same thing today for no better reason than that's what I did yesterday, or waking up tomorrow and doing the same thing tomorrow for no better reason that's what I did today. Like, we get caught in this endless cycle and we get stuck in being busy and, emails and minutia and family and busyness that stops us from doing, living our life in alignment with the way we want to live. So the first way to answer your question, Anthony, and then we'll get to specifics here.
Yeah.
The first thing is to step back and say, what do I want life to look like? Okay. And so you have to ask yourself these specific questions, and the questions that we use, and I know you use some of these types of questions as well in your coaching. So the first thing that we work on is that vision and values. And there's a simple question. There's a simple question that we ask them. And it's this question of your ideal day in your ideal life. What does that look like? Like, paint the picture of, no limiting beliefs. What do you want your life to look like? I mean, stop, don't limit yourself. Don't cap yourself. Don't say, yeah, but I don't have the degree or the network or the money or the connection. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about what do you want your life to look like? What time do you wake up in the morning? What are you doing in the morning? Are you working out? Are you journaling? Are you praying? Are you, what are you putting in your body? Like, plan your day. Like, what does the ideal day look like? Maybe you don't know what company you're working for, but you know the type of people you're working with. You know the type of impact you're making on the world, and structure that day like that perfect ideal day, right? And you might have multiple versions of that, but that's really where we start. And there's a series of questions like this that we ask to extract what your vision for your life should look like. Because some people might go, yeah, okay, vision for my life. I kind of know, I have a good idea. I want to make a lot more money. Okay. I want to make a lot more money, and I want to, be more fit, and no, let's get really clear. Like, how much, when you step on the scale, when you look down between your toes, what's the number say? Like, visualize what that number would say. So we're doing this kind of work, right, around everything, from in every area of your life. That's the first step. And, and I'll give you some case studies here in a second. So, and the way we do it is through a series of, there's worksheets, right? We provide worksheets. And by the way, for the listener, if you go to my website, jimharshawjr.com/action, you can get access to some materials and resources where you can download our goal setting template and some different resources that go over some of this, these frameworks here. But, we provide worksheets, and then we provide one-on-one coaching and group coaching. This sort of environment of excellence, having the right people around you, calling you out, helping you see your blind spots, all of that. But so, for example, we have a guy named John, and this is a real guy. John L is his last name. I'll just go with John L. He's been with us for about seven years. And when he first came to me, his challenge, he's doing very successful. He's a senior engineer at a company. He was traveling a lot to China for work. Huge opportunity in this business. And he had a stake in this company. And it was somewhat of a startup, kind of a little bit beyond startup stage, but it was really crushing his marriage. And he was so afraid to leave this company for all the reasons why we would all be afraid to quit our job and leave our current job for something else. It's, am I going to make enough money? What about this huge payday that I could get down the road if this thing actually works? There's just the devil is better than the devil that you don't know. Do I want to switch jobs and go into something that maybe I'll hate that job too? But we helped them get very clear, what does the vision for John's life look like? It did not look anything like it looked then. And we helped him unscare himself and identify, okay, what are the steps you could take that would bring you better balance, more money, not the same money or less, but more money, more time with your kids, more time with your wife, greater impact. He's coaching. He wanted to coach wrestling for his boys who were growing up, and he wanted to get involved with their wrestling, but he couldn't. He was traveling so much. And we helped him change jobs. We helped him completely shift and change jobs. And now he starts running Spartan races and running more and getting more fit. And everything else in his life fell together. His marriage got better. He makes more money, works less, spends more time with his kids, more time with his family, because we walked him through this process. And he still works with us today because like I said earlier, we're always going to get thrown off the path. We always need these kind of people in our lives. We have a guy who's in our program right now. As a matter of fact, we start with an 8-week program, and 4 weeks into this program, we had his real goal. His name's Eric, and his goal was to become a sales manager, right? And he knew in order to become a sales manager, he had to really up his game as a salesperson, and then prove some leadership experience, et cetera. Well, literally 4 weeks into the program, he went from 36th in his company in terms of sales to fourth, 36 to 4. And by the way, he lost 14 pounds while he was doing this. It's like we're getting very clear and specific on what you want and how are we going to go about getting it. And by the way, every area of your life is connected. Your relationship, your health, your job. This is about performance in life, not just changing careers or becoming a sales leader. It's about performance in life. Who you are at home is who shows up at work, and vice versa.
For sure. Those are both powerful stories. And it reminds me, or just makes me think, that when we're feeling stuck with your first case study, there's like some kind of default program that we're running that feels safe, comfortable, but constraining, that needs to be replaced and upgraded. And that requires clarity. It requires, like you said, taking the fear out, but taking some steps that are stretching you into the unknown. And that's why it's helpful to have coaches and guides, right? Because doing it on your own can be absolutely overwhelming, where emotionally you can lean on people for support during these transition times. And I love your second story because it's like results can actually happen really fast once you get clear and you get the right structures in place, a mix of strategy and mindset. So that's super cool. And I also think for guys, because we're kind of primarily more mission oriented, like we want to have a task or a project to provide. It's like this work scenario. If that is not filling us up, if it's draining us, it seems like that's something that must become into greater alignment. And obviously easier said than done, but obviously very, very possible. And I bet you find when you get a guy in a better job, his relationships start to improve and stress goes down. I mean, is that something you see?
Absolutely. I mean, this is like, we like you talked about, like we end up in these sort of default sort of programming lines of thinking, and we think, okay, I just have to stay in this job. It's really stressful, but maybe it's paying me good money, but it's really stressful. But if I get to the next promotion level, then it'll get better. We have a client coming on board right now. He's at the very big national firm that everybody would know in terms of recognizing a large national financial asset firm, and very high up on the brink of a huge promotion. And he came to us. He's like, I got to make sure I want to get this promotion. It's going to be a lot more money. And but at what cost? At what cost? And you have to understand that, can I have my cake and eat it too? Well, somebody else out there is doing it. Somebody else who's probably not as smart as you or as capable of you as you has already figured it out. And we can help you figure, like, you have to hit the pause button, step back, work with a coach, get feedback from other like-minded people who have been there, done that, can provide you advice, feedback, but we're out there trying to do it on our own. You don't have to do it on your own. And so to get over that sort of default programming, a lot of times it takes, it takes going through something hard. So for me personally, I always had a fear of failure, and it really just showed in wrestling, especially. It was just, I was always tense and tight. I never really let myself compete and be free out there until I had a moment. So at the end of my junior year, so when I got to college and I made the starting lineup my second year, my redshirt freshman year, I realized, like, oh wow, I started having this thought of, like, I can do this. Like maybe I could make it onto the podium at the national championships. And first thing you have to do is you have to qualify for the national championships. And I qualified it as a freshman to the national championships, but I failed to reach my goal. Sophomore year, again, I qualified for the national championships, but again, I failed to get on the podium. Junior year, pretty much a repeat of the prior 2 years, qualified for the national championships, failed to get onto the podium. And I found myself at the end of the tournament, in the locker room, my face buried in a towel, in tears, like wondering, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Am I not good enough? Am I not smart enough? Am I not capable enough? Like, I can't work harder. Like, there's not enough hours in the day. I can't run more miles. I can't lift more weights. I can't watch more film. There's just not enough hours in the day. So now what? Like, what do I do? And so I dedicated my entire off season between my junior year and senior year to figuring out what it is that I'm missing. And I went about it like most of the listeners would go about it, and saying, okay, what skills do I need to learn? Maybe it's communications, in your role, in your work, for example, for the listener, it may be communication or leadership skills, or, I don't know, for how to get better at Excel or something like that. Right. But and I was going about it the same way. Like, do I need to learn, better techniques to get off bottom? Do I need to lift legs more? Do I get in better condition? What is it? And I spent the entire off season training and traveling around the country, getting around the best wrestlers that I could be around. And I would get around Olympians and national championship coaches, because I was like a camp counselor at every college that was hosting a camp. I was like, hey man, can I work your camp? Just so I could be around these people. Mm-hmm. And I would pick their brains. And so the end of the summer comes, and the beginning of my senior year, my final season of competing, comes up. And it's early November, and I'm sitting in a hotel room in Morgantown, West Virginia. And it's the night before my first competition, my senior year. And it hits me like a ton of bricks. I never figured it out. I never figured out the secret, like the thing that I'm missing. I don't know. And so in that moment, I gave up. I give up on the goal. I let go of the goal, and I said to myself, I am doing everything I can possibly do to get to where I want to go, and it's not worked yet. I failed in high school. I failed in college. I failed every single year to achieve one of my meaningful goals. Now what? Like, all I can do is all I can do. If I get to the end of the season, if I end up on the podium, great. If I don't, I have to be okay with it. I have to be. If there's nothing else literally that I know within my power that I'm able to do, then I have to be okay with the outcome. And so I gave up. In that moment, I gave up on the outcome. I said, I'm just going to enjoy the process, just go wrestle as hard as I can, do everything right as much as I know, and let the chips fall where they may. I let go of failure. I went out the next day. I went 4-0, dominated the competition. My father was there. He watched me wrestle, and he's like, Jim, I've never seen you wrestle like that. I don't know what got into you, but that was fun to watch you wrestle like that. I'm like, well, actually, it was fun. It was the most fun I'd ever had in 17 years of competing. It was the most fun I'd ever had. And my whole senior season was the same way. I just gave up on the outcome, knowing, listen, I can't control if I win or lose. I control the process, and I'm going to let go of the outcome. And I got to the national championships again, and you have to win 4 matches at the national championships to become an All-American. And I won my first 3, and here I am it's the 4th match. And if I win this, I'm an All-American. If not, I go home with nothing. And my career is, fruitful in the sense that I learned a lot of great lessons, made a lot of great friends, but didn't really achieve any meaningful goals. And so I step on the mat against the 4th ranked wrestler in the country from University of Minnesota, on the number 1 ranked team in the country, and in front of 15,000 people in the arena. And again, knowing that everything was on the line, I let go of the outcome and said, I don't care if I win or lose. I'm going to do everything I can in this next 7 minutes. And whatever happens, I have to be okay with it. And I won. And I learned this lesson that year, that season, that moment, that 7 minutes, especially, that you really don't control the outcome. If you let go of the outcome and focus on the process, if you make this mindset shift, then it frees you up to be the person that you can truly be. Mm. It allows you to put down this fear of failure, put down this baggage, put down this pretending, this ego of trying to be somebody else who you're not, and just fully show up in the world. And it was a hard lesson for me to learn over many years, but it was the only way that I could have learned that lesson. And that's something that I apply to my life today, right? And it's always this kind of Jedi mind trick. Listen, we all want to win. We all want to lose the weight. We all want to get fit. We all want to make the money. We all want to, make our marriages even better. Whatever that is for the individual listening, we all want that. You have to let go of the outcome, focus on knowing the outcome is what we still want, but just focus on the process and do everything that you can do. And failure or success may happen, but you have to be okay with it.
That was a great story. I am enthralled by that and know exactly what I want to talk about next that is going to be relevant to every person listening. Something popped up in my mind as you were sharing that is, one is, okay, so we take a purposeful pause and a productive pause, and then we set goals in these areas of our lives. So the goals are like the what, the goals or the direction, but then the path, the how, is a relaxation into the flow. Because it's almost like if you carry the weight of the goal all the way through, you end up being tense, fear of failure like you were. And that was the secret sauce that you were missing, is the flow. So you almost have to like have goals, but kind of like be slightly unattached to them in the daily, attached to them in the sense that they're meaningful to you. And that's the right direction you want to head. That's the direction of alignment. But the actual process of pursuing those goals, if it doesn't have a quality of lightness and some degree of play, then you're holding on to something with too much tension. And that's definitely not where we're our most creative in flow. It's obviously not. It's the opposite of that flow performance. So
exactly.
Speak into that a little bit more. This kind of like what seems like a contradiction, right? Jim, we're supposed to set goals, but now it's like, but we're supposed to let go of our goals. And I mean, I think I have a little bit of a handle on this, but I'd love for you to give your take on it as well.
Yeah. So that it's a dichotomy, right? You have to, it's a both and. It's not an either or, it's a both and. Stephen Covey in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People said, start with the end in mind, right? We have to start with that end in mind. Money, weight loss, marriage, whatever it is, relationship, it doesn't matter. Start with that end in mind. And then figure out, what are the things that I have to do? What are the benchmarks along the way? What are the habits and routines that I need to put in place in order to get there? And then I focus on those and let go of the outcome. Now, here's the other thing. Here's the other catch is visualizing what you want. And you mentioned lightness. Visualize what you want and visualize having that, and it being light, it being fun, it being enjoyable, and you enjoying the process of getting there, right? And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. So I'm going to make a distinguishing thing here that is going to really, I think, hopefully help people have an epiphany here. I distinguish between hard work and inspired action. Okay. So if someone said, go dig a ditch, and you're like, why? And they're like, just because I said so. You're like, no, that sucks. I don't want to do that. Right. If somebody told me, Jim, go cut weight, just because, I would never be able to do it. But when I was competing, I'm not proud of this in some ways, but I lost 22 pounds in 2.5 days once to make weight. 22 pounds in 2.5 days. And, it was just pure water weight. I was a skeleton. I probably should have been hospitalized after that. It was a horrible, horrible experience. And all the weight loss rules in wrestling have changed since those days. But it was just, that's just who I was and what I did. Now, most people could never do that. I couldn't do it today. If you asked me to go lose 22 pounds in 2.5 days, like I would never do it. I would never be able to do it because it's not attached to this vision for my life and who I am. But I was able to do it, and you're able to do hard things, and they feel certainly hard, but there's a lightness to them because that's just what you do. Like everybody has these things in their lives. Like it's just what you do. So I wake up at 5 a.m. most days and I go work out. And is it hard? You might say it's hard, but it's just what I do. It's not as hard for me as it is for my neighbor, who I'm always trying to get him to come out and work out with our group, but he doesn't. It's really hard for him. He hasn't visualized himself there. He doesn't see himself there. He doesn't feel himself there. So for him to do this is so heavy, so hard, so unseeable that when if he were to ever set his alarm for 5 a.m., he would just hit snooze and he would never get up. So you have to start with the end in mind, visualize it, enjoy being there and being that person who achieves that thing, set the process, and then focus on the process.
I love it. So it's like in this purposeful, productive pause that people would take, they'll do this aligned goal setting with visualization. And then they'll extract from that the processes and the habits and the actions and the daily systems that need to be done. Get strategic about how those are going to happen, and even those contingency plans in place. What happens if this doesn't happen, or how do you get back on track? And then work that plan with as much joy as possible. Getting feedback, having coaches. And like the cool thing about that is I think that's the summary. And I think that's all true. It's just putting that into play is what's very challenging, because we're humans, we're dynamic, we have emotions and responsibilities, and things happen. So it's like, yeah, the path, we outline the path. That might be the meta path for success, or at least one very common path to achieve success in any area. But like how you implement that is the key.
Yeah.
And I know from these communities, I know you have a lot to comment on this too. It's like doing it with people and with other people is the part of the magic sauce, because that's why you don't hear of like a great athlete that doesn't have a coach or a teammate or someone coming up. It's like we all do. We're meant to be high performance in partnership.
Yeah. You know, the information's out there, right? Everything that you teach, Anthony, everything that I teach, I mean, the information's on YouTube, books, podcasts. It's the information. It's not a lack of information. There's so much information out there these days. It's the implementation that where you help people and transform lives, save lives, transform lives. I mean, I know it's about fitness, but everything you do is just about changing, relationships and performance at work and everything. It's just, it replicates and ripples through every area of their lives. Like, it's the implementation of that is hard. Like, so for example, Tom Brady, he had coaches. Tom Brady had a nutrition coach. He had a strength and conditioning coach. Like, I'm pretty sure Tom Brady knew what to eat. I'm pretty sure Tom Brady knew his way around a weight room.
Yeah.
But yet he had somebody outside of him to help him go from good to great. Tom Brady would have been very, very good without those people in his life. But he said, I want to be great. I want to maximize my potential. So I'm going to bring in these people, this environment of excellence. I want to get this accountability in my life. I want to get these other people who are seeing things that I'm not seeing and bring them into my life. I mean, Michael Jordan really was one of the first athletes sort of, that has become the GOAT, or one of the GOATs, I guess, depending on your opinion on Jordan and LeBron and whoever else, Kobe. But like, he started hiring these outside people to bring them into his life. I think Tim Grover, as a matter of fact, actually worked with him, who went on to work with Kobe and others. But bringing these people into their lives. Again, as men, we feel like we're supposed to be able to figure this out on our own. Just watch another YouTube video. Tomorrow, tomorrow I'm going to really do it. Well, stop beating yourself up for not being able to do it. I met with the pastor of my church this morning, and we were talking, and I just had coffee with him, and I actually help him set goals. And there's the fitness goals that I'm actually helping him with right now. And it's like, we talked about, some areas where he's doing really great and some areas where he's not. And I'm outside of his head. I'm seeing blind spots that he's not seeing. So I helped him put some things in place that he would not have done himself. And, a lot of people in the world who could have, there's a lot of books where he could have read the advice that I gave him, but he's busy and he hit the pause button. We sat down, we identified a plan. Now he has a plan and he's more on track. And so we've got to do that, right? We've got to invest in the implementation, just like the Tom Brady's of the world. I mean, Bill Gates says everybody needs a coach. Eric Schwartz, the former CEO of Google, said the same thing. And some people say, yeah, but I'm so busy, I don't have time to meet with a coach, a fitness coach, or otherwise. Like, Bill Gates is pretty busy, Eric Schwartz Eric Schmidt is like these are busy people. It's about getting more of the right things done by having these people in our lives.
I totally agree. And I think, at least for a lot of the strategies that we've shared in mindset shifts, like, that's a really good place to end, because obviously people who have contacted Fit Father know that we certainly offer coaching on the fitness side. But I think someone listening to this conversation now really has a good feel for your work and what you do. So tell us about who your ideal clients are, and they have a sense now of the process that you walk them through, but basically how people can connect with you from this conversation, who you like to work with, and how you help them basically transform, and what outcomes that your clients have, and I guess the structure of the way you help with implementation.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, Anthony. So my ideal client is a man in his 40s or 50s who has some kind of athletic background. Maybe he was an athlete in high school. Maybe he likes to run 5Ks on the weekend or just be fit now. Or maybe just likes to read the Kobe Bryant and Tom Brady memes on social media and kind of relates to that athletic mindset. So busy men who want to maximize their potential, maximize their impact. They want to crush it at work, make a lot of money, be very successful there, but not sacrifice the things that are most important to them in their lives. That's their family, sometimes their faith, their health and well-being. Like, that's my target audience. That's the guys who we really help the best. I mean, they resonate most with my story. In our community, we have a lot of guys like that. And you bring all these guys together. We have a retreat every year. I know you have a retreat. Like, when I get these guys all in the same room, it's like I could literally leave for the weekend and come back at the end of the weekend and they'd be like, Jim, that was so amazing, but just you get around these type of people, you put them all in the same room and it just amazing things happen. So we have an amazing community. And to find me, Jim Harshaw Jr., just Jim, HARSHAW JR, JimHarshawJr.com. If you search my name, you'll find me, JimHarshawJr.com/action to get access to our action plans from my podcast and some of the goal setting templates and whatnot that I talked about. My podcast is Success for the Athletic Minded Man. And you'll find me if you Google my name on any platform, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. You'll find me. So I love connecting with people, and you can grab a free phone call with me directly one-on-one if you go to JimHarshawJr.com/call.
Well, Jim, I found this very inspiring, insightful. There are a number of things I was writing down during this episode that I'm going to reflect on and implement. And when that happens, I know this is a really great conversation. So thank you for your time and your expertise today. I appreciate you tremendously.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. I appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Fit Father Project podcast. If you love what you heard, please rate and review our podcast on Apple Podcasts. It really helps spread this show to more men who need this valuable info. To watch full video episodes of this podcast and other motivational videos to inspire your training and more, visit our Fit Father Project YouTube channel. It's free and everything's made for busy guys over 40 like you. Visit youtube.com/Fit Father Project to get access to our entire video library. And finally, if you or someone in your life is interested in becoming a fit father or needs help losing weight, building muscle, and living healthier after age 40, then visit fitfatherproject.com, where you can see our proven programs, supplement line for guys 40 plus, and free meal plan and workouts to get you started. This is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi signing off. I'll see you in the next episode.